What's good, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, I'm 28 years old and I've built a multi-million-dollar portfolio starting from absolutely nothing. And today, we need to have a conversation that some people don't want to have, but we're going to have it anyway because knowledge is power, and I'm all about empowering my people. Why do black people earn less money than white people in America? That's the question. And before anybody in the comments starts with the nonsense, let me be clear. This isn't about complaining. This isn't about making excuses. This is about understanding the game so we can win it, period. Because here's what I learned on my way to financial freedom. You can't fix what you don't understand. You can't navigate a system you refuse to study. So let's break it down, and then I'm going to tell you exactly what I did to change my own trajectory. Let's start with the facts. In 2024, for every dollar a white household earns, a black household earns about 63 cents. 63 cents. Let that sink in. And this isn't just about salaries. This is about total income, which includes everything. Your job, your investments, your side hustles, all of it. When we look at wealth, not just income, it gets even worse. The median white family has about 8 times the wealth of the median black family. 8 times. We're not talking about a small gap here. We're talking about a canyon. Now, when I first saw these numbers in my early 20s, I had 2 choices. I could get angry and paralyzed, or I could get educated and activated. I chose the latter. Let me tell you why these gaps exist, and trust me, it's not what they taught you in school. Reason number 1, we're starting from a different starting line. And I'm not talking about ancient history. I'm talking about policies that affected our grandparents, our parents, maybe even us directly. After slavery ended, there were decades of Jim Crow laws that literally prevented black people from accumulating wealth. We couldn't buy property in certain neighborhoods. We couldn't get the same loans. We were shut out of the GI Bill benefits that helped white families build generational wealth after World War II. We're talking about policies that ended in the 1960s. My parents were alive. Your parents were alive. Here's what people don't get. Wealth is generational. When your grandparents could buy a house in a good neighborhood in 1950 for $20,000, and that house is now worth $800,000, that's generational wealth. When your parents could send you to college without loans because they inherited money, that's generational wealth. Most black families didn't have access to that. So we're not just behind by a little bit, we're behind by generations of compound growth that we never got to experience. But it's not just history. There are things happening right now, today, that perpetuate this gap. Let me break down 3 major ones. First, the wage gap for the same work. Studies show that even when black workers and white workers have the same education, the same experience, the same job title, black workers get paid less. Sometimes it's bias in hiring. Sometimes it's bias in promotions. Sometimes it's just straight-up discrimination in salary negotiations. I experienced this myself. Early in my career, I found out a white colleague with less experience than me was making $15,000 more per year. Same role, same company. When I brought it up, they gave me every excuse in the book. That's when I realized you cannot depend on systems to value you fairly. You have to create your own value outside the system. Second, access to capital and credit. Black entrepreneurs get less than 2% of venture capital funding. Less than 2%. When we try to start businesses, we get denied loans at higher rates even with the same credit scores. When we do get approved, we get higher interest rates. This was huge for me when I started my first business. I had a 720 credit score, a solid business plan, and I got rejected by 7 banks. 7. Meanwhile, I watched white founders with similar or worse qualifications get funded. That's when I realized I had to bootstrap everything myself. No bank was going to believe in my vision the way I did. Third, the networking and opportunity gap. Let's be real. Most high-paying opportunities don't come from job boards. They come from networks. They come from somebody knowing somebody who knows somebody. And historically, black people have been excluded from those networks. We're not in the country clubs. We're not in the private school alumni networks. We're not in the legacy admissions at Ivy League schools. All those informal networks where wealth and opportunities get passed around, we're largely locked out. I remember being the only black person in rooms full of investors. The only black woman in tech conferences. And I had to work 3 times as hard to even get invited to those spaces, let alone be taken seriously in them. Now let's talk about the systems that keep this cycle going. Education funding. Schools in predominantly black neighborhoods get less funding, fewer resources, fewer AP classes, fewer pathways to top colleges. This isn't an accident. Schools are funded by property taxes, and because of historical redlining, black neighborhoods have lower property values. Lower property values mean less school funding. Less school funding means fewer opportunities. It's a cycle. Criminal justice system. Black people are incarcerated at much higher rates, often for the same crimes that white people commit. A criminal record destroys your earning potential. Can't get certain jobs. Can't get certain licenses. Can't qualify for loans. One mistake can derail an entire economic trajectory. Healthcare disparities. We have worse health outcomes, less access to quality care, higher rates of chronic disease. Medical debt is one of the leading causes of bankruptcy in black communities. When you're spending all your money just trying to stay alive and healthy, there's nothing left to invest and build wealth. These aren't just individual problems. These are systemic barriers designed, yes, I said designed, to keep wealth concentrated in certain communities and away from ours. Now, I could end this video right here and you'd understand the problem. But understanding the problem without having solutions is just going to make you depressed. So let me tell you what I did. At 23 years old, broke, with $10,000 in student debt, to completely change my financial situation. Step 1. I stopped waiting for permission. I realized that the traditional path, go to school, get a good job, climb the corporate ladder, was designed by people who already had generational wealth. That path works when you have a safety net. When you don't, you need a different strategy. So I started a side business. I didn't wait for venture capital. I didn't wait for a bank loan. I used my last $500 to build a service-based business teaching social media marketing to small businesses. I hustled. I worked my 9 to 5 and then worked on my business from 7 p.m. to midnight every single night. Step 2. I educated myself financially. Nobody in my family talked about investing. Nobody explained compound interest, tax strategies, asset allocation. So I taught myself. I read books. I took free online courses. I joined investing communities. I learned about index funds, real estate, building multiple income streams. Here's what's wild. Financial literacy isn't taught in schools, especially not in our schools. That's not an accident. They don't want us to know how money really works. But once you understand it, you can't unsee it. You start seeing opportunities everywhere. Step 3. I built my own network. Since I wasn't born into the right networks, I had to create them. I went to every free business event I could find. I joined online communities of black entrepreneurs. I reached out to successful black women and asked if I could pick their brain for 20 minutes. Some people ignored me. Some people said no. But some people said yes. And those yeses changed my life. One mentor connected me to my first 5-figure client. Another taught me how to structure my business for tax efficiency. Another introduced me to angel investors who actually understood my vision. Step 4. I invested aggressively. The moment I started making more money, I didn't inflate my lifestyle. I know that's not sexy. I know everybody wants to see the cars and the bags when they finally start winning. But I invested. Every single dollar I didn't need for basic survival went into building assets. I maxed out my Roth IRA. I put money into index funds. I bought my first rental property at 25, scraped together every penny for that down payment. That rental property now covers half my monthly expenses through passive income. Step 5. I understood that wealth is a marathon, not a sprint. This is the hardest pill to swallow, because we're told to get rich quick. We see people on social media flashing money, and we think it happened overnight. It didn't. I've been building for 5 years. 5 years of sacrifices. 5 years of working when I was tired. 5 years of delayed gratification. But now I have financial security. Now I have options. Now I can say no to jobs that don't value me. Now I can invest in my community. Now I can be the mentor I wish I had. So what can you do, right now, today, to start closing your personal wealth gap? Let me give you 5 concrete actions. 1. Audit your skills and monetize them. You have skills that people will pay for. writing, design, coding, organizing, cooking, teaching, consulting, whatever it is, there's a market for it. Start a side hustle. Even if it's just $500 extra a month, that's $6,000 a year you can invest. 2. Negotiate your salary like your life depends on it, because it does. Research salary ranges, practice your pitch, ask for more. The worst they can say is no, but most of the time, they'll meet you somewhere in the middle. I've negotiated an extra $60,000 over my career just by asking. 3. Open a retirement account and automate your investments. Even if it's just $50 a month, start. The earlier you start, the more compound interest works in your favor. Time is your biggest asset when you're young. 4. Consume financial education content daily. Replace 1 hour of entertainment with 1 hour of learning about money. Listen to podcasts about investing. Read books about building wealth. Follow people who actually have the results you want, not just the ones who talk a good game. 5. Connect with other wealth builders in your community. Find your tribe. Join groups, attend meetups, build relationships with people who are on the same journey. Your network is your net worth, and you need people around you who are going to challenge you, inspire you, and hold you accountable. Look, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like hard work alone will close a 400-year wealth gap. It won't. We need policy changes, we need reparations, we need systemic reform, and we should fight for those things. But while we're fighting the long fight, we also have to win our personal battles. We have to take control of what we can control. We have to build our own wealth, create our own opportunities, and leave something better for the next generation than what was left for us. The wage gap is real. The wealth gap is real, the barriers are real, but so is your potential, so is your power, so is your ability to change your own story. I'm 28 years old and I built wealth that my grandparents couldn't even dream of. Not because I'm special, not because I got lucky, but because I refused to accept the statistics as my destiny. I learned the game, I played it better, and I'm still playing. You can too. If this video resonated with you, drop a comment below telling me what action you're going to take this week. Subscribe if you want more real talk about building wealth as a Black person in America. And share this with somebody who needs to hear it. I'll see you in the next one. Stay blessed, stay focused, and let's get this money.